Stand still. I want everyone to see what dirty money looks like when it tries to buy class. Oliver Davis's voice cracked with privilege as he raised the crystal goblet over Sophia Anderson's head. Red wine exploded across her face, dripping down her ivory gown while 300 guests gasped, then laughed. His mother, Catherine Davis, clapped like he'd just performed at Carnegie Hall. "That's my boy," she cooed, lifting her iPhone to capture the moment. His father, Richard Davis, stepped closer, eyes cold as marble. "Careful now," he murmured. "Wine stains are hard to get out. Then again, so are people like you." Sophia didn't flinch. And not one person in that DC ballroom understood they had just drenched the only woman in America capable of collapsing their $800 million empire with a single sentence. If you've ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong, even though you earned your seat, then you already know what this moment felt like. Stay with me, because what happens next is going to remind you why you should never let anyone make you feel small. But real quick, if this story matters to you, hit subscribe. Because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The Willard Intercontinental Hotel in Washington, D.C. was glowing that night. Chandeliers. Champagne. The kind of people who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Aspen. This wasn't just a gala. It was a merger celebration for Davis Consolidated Energy and Aurelia Grid Solutions, Sophia's company. 2 years of negotiations. An $800 million infrastructure deal that would change the clean energy game forever. Sophia had built Aurelia from her aunt's basement in Southeast D.C. into one of the most respected renewable energy companies in the country. She powered hospitals, schools, transit systems. She didn't inherit wealth. She created it. At 44, she moved through the world with quiet authority. Natural locks pulled into a low bun. Ivory gown, simple and elegant. She didn't need to prove anything. She'd already done that. But standing in that ballroom full of old money and older power, she felt it, the weight of every eye on her, measuring, judging, waiting for her to fail. That's when Oliver Davis appeared. 17. Blonde. Boarding school blazer. The kind of kid who's never heard the word no, and wouldn't recognize consequences if they hit him in the face. His prep school friends trailed behind him, phones already out. Sophia saw him coming. She'd been the only black woman in too many white spaces not to recognize danger when it walked toward her. But she didn't move. Running would have given him what he wanted. "Stand still," Oliver said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. His fingers tightened around the crystal glass. The wine fell. Cold. Heavy. It hit her forehead, streamed into her eyes, soaked through the silk of her gown. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then laughter. Catherine Davis shrieked with delight, phone raised high. Richard Davis grinned, martini in hand. "Wine stains are hard to get out," he said slowly. "Then again, so are people like you." Phones lifted. Flashes fired. And no one, not one person, stepped forward to help. They just watched. Recorded. Waited to see if she'd break. Sophia felt the wine drip from her hair, felt the weight of 300 stares. She'd been underestimated her whole life. This was just another test. So she reached for a napkin, dabbed her neck slowly, and looked Oliver dead in the eye. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You just made my decision a whole lot easier." She walked past him. Headed for the stage. Every step left a trail of wine on the marble floor. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Someone whispered, "Is she really going up there?" The spotlights hit her as she climbed the stairs, and when Sophia Anderson gripped that podium, she didn't look broken. She looked dangerous. Sophia stood under the stage lights, wine still dripping from her gown, and the entire ballroom held its breath. This was supposed to be her victory speech. A celebration of partnership, progress, innovation. She had notes prepared. Talking points. But as she looked out at the sea of faces, some shocked, some amused, some still holding their phones, she realized something. She didn't owe these people performance. She owed herself dignity. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady and clear. The murmurs died instantly. "I had prepared remarks about partnership and shared vision. But recent events require a different message." Richard Davis's smile began to fade. Catherine lowered her phone slowly. Oliver stood frozen in the crowd, his earlier bravado starting to crack. Effective immediately, Sophia continued, each word sharp and deliberate. Aurelia Grid Solutions is terminating all negotiations regarding the proposed $800 million strategic partnership with Davis Consolidated Energy. The ballroom erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Richard's face turned crimson. Catherine's mouth fell open. Phones that had been recording Sophia's humiliation now captured something entirely different, a power shift happening in real time. Our company values include integrity, respect, and dignity for all people, Sophia stated. We choose our partners based on alignment with these principles. Tonight has made it clear that alignment does not exist here. She could see Richard pushing through the crowd now, his rage barely contained. But she wasn't finished. To quote someone in this room, she said, her eyes finding Richard, wine stains are hard to get out. Then again, so are people like you. You're right, Mr. Davis. Some things can't be washed away. Including the choice I just made. The silence was suffocating. Even the servers had stopped moving. Sophia's wine-stained gown continued to drip onto the stage, each drop echoing like a gavel. I wish you all a lovely evening, she said, stepping back from the podium. She descended the stairs with the same grace she'd shown all night, leaving the Davis family to face a ballroom full of cameras and witnesses. Their carefully maintained image was cracking in real time. In seconds, Oliver's prank had cost them the deal their company desperately needed to stay competitive in the renewable energy market. The empire built on generations of privilege had just been shaken by a woman who refused to accept humiliation as the cost of success. Richard finally reached the front of the crowd, his voice booming. This is ridiculous. A complete overreaction to a harmless joke. But the journalists in the room were already typing. The guests were already posting. The story was already spreading beyond the walls of that ballroom, beyond DC, beyond anyone's control. Sophia's heels clicked across the marble lobby as she headed for the exit. Her PR director, Marcus Webb, burst through the doors, tablet in hand, eyes wide. Sophia, he rushed to her side. It's everywhere. The live streams alone have over 80,000 views and climbing. She nodded, unsurprised. Show me. Marcus held up his tablet. Comments flooded the screen faster than he could scroll. Disgusting behavior from that entitled brat. She handled that with so much class. Time to investigate the Davis family's history. That's what real power looks like. Twitter's on fire, Marcus reported. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they're all running with it. The clip of you canceling the deal is trending harder than the wine incident itself. They reached the lobby doors where Sophia's driver waited. Camera flashes exploded as journalists swarmed the entrance. Ms. Anderson, was this racially motivated? Will Aurelia pursue legal action? What message do you have for other black executives? Marcus stepped forward, shielding her. Ms. Anderson will release a formal statement tomorrow. Through the tinted windows of her car, Sophia watched the chaos fade as they pulled away. Her phone buzzed relentlessly, board members, colleagues, reporters. She silenced it, finally allowing herself to breathe. Davis Consolidated stock is already dropping in after-hours trading, Marcus said, still monitoring his tablet. Their Asian markets opened 20 minutes ago. It's not pretty. Sophia closed her eyes briefly. Their PR team will retaliate hard tomorrow. Have our legal department ready. Already done. But Sophia, this is bigger than a canceled deal now. You're not just a CEO anymore. You're a symbol. She stared out at the DC skyline, her reflection ghostly in the glass. I never wanted to be a symbol, Marcus. I just wanted to run my company without dealing with their garbage. But deep down, she knew the war had just begun. And the Davis family wouldn't go down quietly. By sunrise, the world had picked a side. Sophia's phone had been buzzing since 4 a.m., but she'd ignored it, choosing instead to stand by her kitchen window with black coffee and watch the city wake up. The headlines were everywhere. She didn't need to check her phone to know. Marcus had already sent screenshots. Black CEO humiliated at gala, then cancels $800 million deal in stunning power move. Wine-soaked revenge. Sophia Anderson makes Davis family pay. Old money meets new power, and loses. But for every supportive headline, there was another trying to tear her down. Emotional overreaction or justified response. Did Sophia Anderson tank her own career? The comment sections were battlegrounds, half the country calling her a hero, the other half questioning her stability, her judgment, her right to be offended in the first place. By 9 a.m., Sophia was in her office at Aurelia's headquarters in downtown D.C. The entire executive floor was buzzing. Her assistant, Jennifer, met her at the elevator with a stack of message slips and a worried expression. The board wants an emergency meeting. 3 of our smaller partners are asking for clarification on the company's direction. And there are 17 news outlets camped outside the building. Sophia took the messages without breaking stride. Schedule the board meeting for this afternoon. Tell our partners we'll issue a formal statement by noon. And have security keep the press off the property. In her office, Marcus was already waiting, laptop open, looking like he hadn't slept. It's out of control, he said immediately. The video's been shared over 2 million times. We're trending on every platform. But Sophia, it's not all positive. He turned his laptop toward her. A Fox News segment was playing, the host's face skeptical. While many are calling Sophia Anderson's response empowering, others are questioning whether canceling an $800 million deal over what some are calling a teenage prank was an emotionally driven decision that could harm her own company and employees. Sophia's jaw tightened. A teenage prank. They're controlling the narrative, Marcus said. Richard Davis went on CNBC this morning. Apologized for his son's inappropriate behavior, called it youthful poor judgment, said the family respects Sophia but believes her response was disproportionate. He's painting you as unstable. Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Ms. Anderson? The voice was female, older, hesitant. My name is Ruth Carmichael. I worked for the Davis family for 18 years as their estate manager. I need to talk to you about what happened last night. And about what's been happening for a lot longer than that. Sophia's pulse quickened. I'm listening. Not over the phone, Ruth said quickly. Can we meet? Today? There are things you need to know. Things I should have spoken up about years ago. Sophia glanced at Marcus, who was watching her carefully. Where? There's a coffee shop on M Street. Busboys and poets. 2 o'clock. I'll be there. The line went dead. Sophia lowered her phone slowly, her mind racing. Marcus leaned forward. Who was that? Someone from inside the Davis family, Sophia said quietly. Someone who wants to talk. Marcus's eyes widened. You think it's legitimate? Only one way to find out. Sophia stood, grabbing her jacket. Clear my afternoon. And Marcus, don't tell anyone about this yet. At 2 p.m., Sophia walked into Busboys and Poets wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to avoid recognition. The coffee shop was busy, filled with college students and remote workers. Ruth Carmichael sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug, looking nervous. She was black, late 50s, with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Sophia slid into the booth across from her. Ms. Carmichael. Ruth, please. The older woman's hands trembled slightly. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Why wouldn't I? Ruth glanced around the coffee shop before leaning in. Because what I'm about to tell you could destroy the Davis family completely. And once I say it, there's no taking it back. Sophia removed her sunglasses, meeting Ruth's gaze directly. Then say it. Ruth reached into her bag and pulled out a worn leather journal. I kept records. Everything. Every racist comment, every inappropriate conversation, every time they treated staff like we were invisible. 18 years of it. She slid the journal across the table. Last night wasn't an isolated incident, Ms. Anderson. That boy learned his behavior from somewhere. And I watched it happen. Sophia opened the journal carefully. Page after page of handwritten notes, dates, names, detailed accounts of behavior that made her stomach turn. Slurs. Threats. Retaliation against employees who spoke up. Financial manipulation of minority contractors. Why now? Sophia asked quietly. Why come forward now? Ruth's eyes filled with tears. Because I watched them humiliate you on national television, and I realized I'd been complicit by staying silent. I told myself I needed the job, needed the health insurance, needed the stability. But watching you cancel that deal, watching you refuse to accept their cruelty, it woke something up in me. She wiped her eyes. I retired last month. I don't need them anymore. And they don't get to keep doing this. Sophia closed the journal, her mind racing with the implications. This wasn't just about one night anymore. This was about a pattern. A system. A family that had operated with impunity for generations. Ruth, Sophia said carefully, if we move forward with this, they will come after you. Hard. Are you prepared for that? Ruth nodded, her jaw set with determination. I'm prepared. Are you? Sophia thought about the board meeting waiting for her. The partners asking for clarification. The media camped outside her building. The world watching to see if she'd fold under pressure. Yes, she said finally. I'm prepared. But neither of them knew just how ugly the fight was about to get. Sophia didn't go back to the office. Instead, she drove to her attorney's office in Georgetown with Ruth's journal on the passenger seat like a bomb waiting to detonate. Her lawyer, Diana Price, was one of the best civil rights attorneys in D.C. Sharp, relentless, and not easily shocked. But when Sophia laid the journal on her desk and explained where it came from, even Diana's carefully maintained professional mask slipped. Jesus, Diana muttered, flipping through pages filled with 18 years of documented abuse. This is a prosecutor's dream. Can we verify it? Sophia asked. We'll need to cross-reference dates, interview other former employees, pull any available records. Diana looked up, her expression serious. But Sophia, if even half of this checks out, we're not talking about a civil settlement. We're talking federal investigations. Criminal charges. The complete dismantling of their reputation. Good, Sophia said flatly. Diana studied her for a long moment. You understand they'll retaliate, right? This family has connections everywhere. Politics, media, finance. The moment they realize you have this, they'll come at you with everything they've got. Let them. Over the next 3 days, Diana's team worked around the clock. They contacted 12 former Davis household employees. 9 agreed to speak on the record. They corroborated Ruth's accounts, adding their own stories of discrimination, wage theft, and hostile work environments. One former contractor provided emails showing the Davis family had systematically underpaid minority-owned businesses while inflating costs to investors. Another had recordings of Richard Davis using racial slurs during private business calls. The pattern was undeniable. The evidence was overwhelming. And the Davis family had no idea it was coming. On the 4th morning, Sophia was in her office reviewing legal briefs when Marcus burst through the door, his face pale. Turn on CNN. Right now. Sophia grabbed her remote. The screen filled with Richard Davis's face at a press conference, looking somber and concerned. Deeply troubled by recent developments regarding Ms. Anderson's mental state and decision-making capacity. Sophia's blood ran cold. Over the past several days, Richard continued, his voice dripping with false sympathy, we've received concerning reports from business associates who've worked closely with Ms. Anderson. Reports of erratic behavior, paranoid accusations, and increasingly unstable decision-making. We believe Ms. Anderson is under immense pressure and may benefit from professional support during this difficult time. He's calling you crazy, Marcus breathed. The press conference continued. Richard presented what he called evidence of Sophia's instability, selectively edited email exchanges, out-of-context quotes from anonymous sources, even grainy cell phone footage allegedly showing Sophia behaving aggressively toward staff members. Sophia's hands clenched into fists. That footage is fake. I've never. I know, Marcus said quickly. But they're planting doubt. Look at the comments. He showed her his phone. Social media was exploding. Half the comments defended Sophia, but the other half had shifted. Maybe she did overreact. That footage looks pretty damning. Rich people problems. She's making this about race when it was just a stupid kid being stupid. The smear campaign was working. Within hours, 2 of Aurelia's smaller partners issued statements, pausing their contracts pending further evaluation of leadership stability. Sophia's board demanded another emergency meeting. And worst of all, A financial news outlet published an anonymous op-ed titled, "When Victimhood Becomes a Business Strategy." Sophia sat in her office that night, alone, watching her reputation get shredded in real time. Every station, every site, every platform, the narrative had shifted. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the villain. The angry black woman who'd overreacted. The CEO who couldn't handle pressure. The professional who'd let emotions destroy an $800 million deal. Her phone rang. "Diana." "Don't respond," her attorney said immediately. "They want you to react emotionally. That's the trap. We stick to the plan, verify everything in Ruth's journal, and when we're ready, we release it all at once." "How long?" Sophia asked, her voice tight. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. We need everything airtight. "I might not have 3 weeks, Diana. They're destroying me." "Then we work faster." But that night, lying awake in her penthouse, Sophia felt something she hadn't felt in years. Doubt. Not about the truth. She knew what happened, knew what the Davis family was, knew the evidence was real. But doubt about whether truth even mattered anymore. In the court of public opinion, perception was reality. And right now, they were winning. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet. This is just the beginning." Sophia stared at the message until her vision blurred. Then she turned off her phone, pulled her knees to her chest, and for the first time since that night at the gala, she let herself cry. Not because she was weak, but because fighting monsters was exhausting. And she was so tired. Tomorrow, she'd get back up. Tomorrow, she'd keep fighting. But tonight, alone in the dark, Sophia Anderson let herself break. Just a little. Just enough to remember she was human. The smear campaign escalated with surgical precision. Every morning brought a new attack, each one more calculated than the last. Anonymous business insiders told reporters that Sophia had a history of difficult behavior. A former Aurelia intern, who'd been fired 3 years ago for falsifying expenses, suddenly appeared on a podcast claiming Sophia created a hostile work environment. The hosts ate it up, never questioning the source's credibility. By the end of week 1, Aurelia's stock had dropped 18%. 3 more partners suspended contracts. Sophia's board called another emergency meeting, this time with thinly veiled suggestions that perhaps she should step back until the situation stabilized. Translation: resign. Sophia refused. "I'm not stepping back from a company I built because a racist family is running a PR campaign against me." But the pressure was crushing. Her executive team was fielding constant calls from nervous investors. Her inbox overflowed with interview requests from journalists who'd already decided she was guilty of something. They just wanted her to confirm it. Even her mother called from Atlanta, voice shaking. "Baby, what's happening? Mrs. Patterson from church showed me an article that said you threatened that boy. That's not true, is it?" "No, Mama. It's not true." "Then why are they saying it?" Because they can, Sophia thought but didn't say. Because powerful people don't like being challenged. Because the world is more willing to believe a black woman is unstable than to believe a white family is racist. The worst came on a Tuesday afternoon. Sophia was in a board meeting when Marcus knocked, his expression grim. "You need to see this. Now." In her office, he pulled up a video on his laptop. Grainy, shot from a bad angle, clearly recorded on someone's phone. The timestamp said it was from the night of the gala, about 20 minutes before the wine incident. In the video, Sophia appeared to be confronting Oliver Davis near the coat check. Her body language was tense, her finger pointed at his chest. The audio was muffled, but you could hear raised voices. Oliver looked scared. "What the hell is this?" Sophia breathed. "It's everywhere," Marcus said. "Posted an hour ago by an anonymous account. The caption says you threatened Oliver before he ever approached you with the wine. They're saying he was acting in self-defense, that the wine was his way of getting away from you." Sophia replayed the video, her heart pounding. "Marcus, I never spoke to Oliver before he poured wine on me. I didn't even know who he was. This didn't happen." "I know. No, you don't understand. This literally didn't happen. I wasn't near the coat check. I was on the other side of the ballroom talking to Senator Williams. There are witnesses." Marcus's face was pale. "Then this video is Fake. Sophia's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of her desk. They deep-faked me. Within 2 hours, the video had been viewed over 1 million times. News outlets played it on loop. Legal analysts debated whether Sophia could be charged with assault. Social media exploded. The comments were brutal. She's lying. Typical victim complex. Threatening a teenager? Lock her up. This is what happens when you give people too much power too fast. Sophia's lawyer called immediately. We need to get ahead of this. I'm contacting forensic video analysts to prove it's manipulated, but that takes time. In the meantime, my reputation is being destroyed, Sophia said, her voice hollow. That night, sitting alone in her apartment, Sophia watched the lie spread like wildfire. Every share, every retweet, every news segment that played the video without questioning its authenticity felt like another nail in her coffin. She thought about Ruth's journal sitting in Diana's office, filled with truth that no one would believe now because the Davis family had poisoned the well. She thought about all the people she employed, the communities her company served, the little girl she used to be in Southeast DC who dreamed of building something that mattered. And she thought about giving up. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but the caller ID said, Ruth Carmichael. Ms. Anderson, Ruth's voice was urgent. I just saw that video. And I need you to know something. I was standing near the coat check that entire night. I saw you talking to Senator Williams on the opposite side of the room. You never went near Oliver. That video is a lie. Sophia closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. I know, Ruth. But how do we prove it? We keep fighting, Ruth said firmly. Because that family has been getting away with lies for decades. And if we stop now, they win. Not just against you. Against everyone they've ever hurt. After they hung up, Sophia sat in the dark for a long time. Then she opened her laptop and started watching the fake video frame by frame, looking for anything, any detail, any flaw, any proof that it wasn't real. Because somewhere in that manufactured lie was the key to exposing the truth. She just had to find it. And she would. Even if it killed her. You know what's crazy? How easy it is to destroy someone's truth when you have money and power. One fake video, one planted story, one coordinated attack, and suddenly, everything she built, everything she stood for, doesn't matter anymore. We've all seen it happen. Maybe it's even happened to you on a smaller scale. Someone lied about you, and people believed it because the lie was louder than your truth. So if you're still here, still watching, still believing that the truth has to matter, then subscribe. Because the next chapter is where everything changes. And you need to see what happens when someone refuses to stay silent. Sophia didn't sleep. For 3 nights straight, she sat at her kitchen table with a fake video playing on her laptop, pausing it, rewinding it, zooming in on every pixel. Her eyes burned. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. But she couldn't stop. Somewhere in this manufactured lie was the proof she needed. Somewhere in these frames was the flaw they'd missed. On the 4th night, she found it. It was 2:47 a.m. when she noticed the reflection in the decorative mirror behind her in the video. In the reflection, a woman in a red dress stood talking to someone in a suit. But Sophia remembered that mirror. She'd walked past it earlier that evening. And in real life, there had been a large floral arrangement blocking most of the reflection. In the video, the flowers weren't there. She sat back, heart pounding. They'd composited her into the scene. Which meant they'd used footage of her from somewhere else in the ballroom and digitally inserted her near the coat check. If she could prove the flowers should have been there, the entire video fell apart. Sophia grabbed her phone and called Marcus, not caring about the time. He answered on the 3rd ring, groggy. Sophia? It's almost 3 in the morning. The flowers, she interrupted. The arrangement near the coat check mirror. Do we have any photos from earlier in the night showing them? Marcus woke up fast. Hold on. She heard rustling, typing, checking social media posts from guests. Okay, yeah. Senator Williams posted a photo at 7:15 p.m. You can see the arrangement in the background. Send it to me. Now. The photo came through. There they were, massive white lilies in a crystal vase, positioned exactly where they should have been in the mirror's reflection. But in the fake video, they'd vanished. Because whoever created the deepfake had used a later shot of the mirror, after the flowers had been moved for the dinner service. Sophia's hands trembled as she forwarded everything to Diana. Within an hour, her attorney was on a video call with a forensic video analyst, comparing the metadata, the lighting angles, the impossible reflection. By sunrise, they had confirmation. The video was a sophisticated deepfake, created by layering multiple sources and using AI to manipulate Sophia's face and voice. "We've got them," Diana said, her voice electric with vindication. "This isn't just a smear campaign anymore. This is conspiracy to commit fraud. Defamation with manufactured evidence. The Davis family just committed a federal crime." But when Sophia showed up to the office that morning, exhausted and victorious, Marcus met her at the elevator with bad news. 3 more partners pulled out. "The board is meeting without you this afternoon to discuss a vote of no confidence. And Fox News just ran a segment calling you the most controversial CEO in America." Sophia felt the weight settle back on her shoulders. "We have proof the video's fake." "I know. But Sophia..." Marcus hesitated. "The damage is already done. Even when we prove it, people will say you're lying to cover up what really happened. The truth doesn't spread as fast as the lie did." He was right. She knew he was right. But she also knew she couldn't stop now. She'd come too far, sacrificed too much, carried too much weight for too many people who'd been silenced before her. "Set up a press conference," Sophia said. "Tomorrow. Live. No edited statements. No controlled interviews. I'm going to tell the truth in real time, and I'm going to let the experts explain exactly how that video was faked. If the media wants a story, I'll give them one they can't ignore." Marcus's eyes widened. "That's risky. If anything goes wrong, then it goes wrong. But I'm done playing defense. It's time to go on offense." That afternoon, while her board met to discuss her future without her, Sophia sat in Diana's office and prepared. They reviewed the evidence: Ruth's journal, the corroborating testimony from 9 former employees, the financial records showing fraud, the forensic analysis of the deepfake video. They built a timeline. They prepared for every possible question, every attack, every attempt to discredit her. "You understand this is going to be brutal," Diana warned. "The moment you go public with this, the Davis family will unleash everything they have. And they have a lot." Sophia met her attorney's eyes. "So do I." That night, alone in her apartment, Sophia stood by the window overlooking the DC skyline and thought about the girl she used to be. Growing up in Southeast with a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Studying by streetlight when the electricity got shut off. Applying to Georgetown on a scholarship she never thought she'd get. Building Aurelia in her aunt's basement with nothing but a laptop and an idea that renewable energy shouldn't just be for rich neighborhoods. She'd spent her entire life proving she belonged in rooms that didn't want her. And tomorrow, she'd prove it one more time. Not because she needed their validation, but because every little girl who'd ever been told she was too much or not enough deserved to see what happened when you refused to be silenced. Sophia's phone buzzed. A text from her mother: "Praying for you, baby. God's got you." She closed her eyes and let herself believe it. Because tomorrow, she was walking into a war. And she needed to believe she wasn't alone. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the National Press Club, a neutral venue where journalists couldn't accuse her of controlling the narrative. By 9:30, the room was packed, every major network, dozens of print reporters, bloggers, independent media. Cameras lined the back wall. The energy was electric and hostile. Sophia walked in at 9:55, flanked by Diana and Marcus. She wore a navy suit, her locks pulled back in a professional bun, her expression calm but resolute. No notes. No teleprompter. Just her, the truth, and the evidence. The murmurs died as she approached the podium. Flashes erupted. Someone shouted a question, but Sophia raised a hand. "I'll make a statement first. Then I'll take questions. All of them." She gripped the edges of the podium and looked directly into the cameras. "My name is Sophia Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Aurelia Grid Solutions. And for the past 2 weeks, my reputation, my character, and my sanity have been systematically destroyed by a coordinated smear campaign designed to silence me after I refused to accept racist humiliation." The room erupted. Diana stepped forward, holding up a hand. "Let her finish." Sophia continued, her voice steady. On the night of the gala, Oliver Davis poured wine on me while his parents laughed and filmed. I cancelled an $800 million deal because I will not partner with people who treat human beings as entertainment. In response, the Davis family has spent 2 weeks trying to paint me as unstable, emotional, and dangerous. They've planted false stories, manipulated business relationships, and created a deepfake video to frame me as a threat to a teenage boy. She nodded to Diana, who pulled up the fake video on the screens behind them. This video has been viewed over 3 million times. It's been cited by news outlets, legal analysts, and social media users as evidence of my aggression. Except it never happened. The forensic video analyst stepped forward, introducing himself as Dr. Michael Torres from MIT's Media Lab. For the next 10 minutes, he methodically dismantled the video frame by frame. He showed the missing flower arrangement in the mirror reflection. He highlighted the inconsistent lighting angles. He displayed the metadata proving the video was composed from multiple sources and digitally altered using AI software. This is not a case of a bad camera angle or misremembered events, Dr. Torres concluded. This is manufactured evidence created with the intent to deceive. The room exploded with questions. Sophia held up her hand again. There's more. Diana took the podium, presenting Ruth Carmichael's journal and the corroborating testimony from 9 former Davis employees. She outlined patterns of discrimination, wage theft, and financial fraud spanning nearly 2 decades. She showed emails, recordings, documented proof of systematic abuse that had been hidden behind wealth and power. This isn't about one incident at a gala, Diana stated. This is about a family that has operated with impunity for generations, and a system that protects them at the expense of everyone else. Ruth herself appeared via video call, her face filling the screens. I worked for the Davis family for 18 years. I stayed silent because I needed the job, needed the health insurance, needed to survive. But watching them humiliate Ms. Anderson and then destroy her reputation for refusing to accept it, that was the moment I realized silence makes you complicit. I'm done being complicit. The questions came rapid fire. Sophia answered every one. Yes, she had receipts. Yes, she'd contacted federal authorities. Yes, she understood this could destroy the Davis family. No, she didn't feel guilty about it. Yes, she believed this was about race. No, she wasn't seeking revenge. She was seeking accountability. One reporter pressed harder. Ms. Anderson, critics say you're using the race card to avoid responsibility for a business decision gone wrong. What do you say to that? Sophia looked directly into the camera. I say that if calling out racism is playing the race card, then the deck was rigged from the start. And I'm done playing by their rules. The press conference lasted 90 minutes. When it ended, Sophia walked out into a sea of flashes and shouted questions, but she didn't stop. She'd said everything she needed to say. Now the world would decide what to do with the truth. By noon, the narrative had shifted again. This time, in her direction. Legal experts confirmed the video was fake. Tech journalists explained how deepfakes were being weaponized. Former Davis employees started coming forward publicly, adding their voices to Ruth's. The evidence was too overwhelming to ignore, too detailed to dismiss. And then, at 2:17 p.m., the Justice Department issued a statement. We are reviewing allegations of financial fraud, discrimination, and conspiracy to commit defamation in connection with Davis Consolidated Energy. No further comment at this time. Sophia was in her office when Marcus showed her the statement. She read it twice, then sat back in her chair and exhaled for what felt like the first time in 2 weeks. They're going to investigate, Marcus said, grinning. Federal level. This is really happening. Sophia closed her eyes. She'd won this round. But she knew the Davis family wouldn't go quietly. The real fight was just beginning. Still, for the first time since that night at the gala, Sophia Anderson felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours of Sophia's press conference, federal agents showed up at Davis Consolidated Energy's headquarters with warrants. They seized computers, financial records, communication logs. Employees were interviewed. Partners were questioned. The empire that had seemed untouchable was suddenly under a microscope, and the view wasn't pretty. Richard Davis hired a team of high-powered attorneys and went on the offensive. He appeared on every network that would have him, maintaining his innocence, calling the investigation a politically motivated witch hunt and Sophia, a disgruntled business partner weaponizing victimhood. But the evidence kept piling up. Former contractors came forward with documentation of discriminatory practices. Investors admitted they'd been misled about project costs and timelines. Even some of the Davis family's political allies started distancing themselves, suddenly unavailable for comment. Catherine Davis tried a different approach. She gave a tearful interview to a sympathetic morning show host, painting Oliver as a troubled teenager who'd made a mistake and was now being crucified by cancel culture. She talked about his therapy, his regrets, his learning journey. The host nodded sympathetically. But then a journalist dug up Oliver's social media history, posts the family thought they'd scrubbed, racist jokes, videos mocking homeless people, screenshots of group chats where he and his prep school friends rated women by race. The troubled teenager narrative collapsed instantly. By the end of week 3, the Securities and Exchange Commission announced they were launching their own investigation into Davis Consolidated's financial practices. The IRS followed. Then the Department of Labor. The dominoes were falling. Sophia watched it unfold from her office, still managing Aurelia through the chaos. Partners who'd paused contracts came back, apologizing for doubting her. New partnerships appeared, companies that specifically wanted to work with her because of how she'd handled the situation. Her stock price didn't just recover. It surged. But the moment that mattered most came on a Thursday afternoon. Sophia was in a meeting when Marcus knocked, his expression unreadable. Turn on CNN. On the screen, federal agents were escorting Richard Davis out of his office building in handcuffs. The charges scrolled across the bottom: conspiracy to commit fraud, securities violations, tax evasion, obstruction of justice. Catherine Davis was arrested at their Virginia estate an hour later. Even Oliver faced charges: witness tampering and conspiracy in connection with a deepfake video. The news anchors could barely contain their shock. The Davis family, one of the most prominent names in American energy for over a century, has been dismantled in less than a month. And it all started with a glass of wine at a charity gala. Sophia turned off the TV. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt exhausted. Vindicated, yes. Relieved, absolutely. But also deeply aware of how many people had been hurt by this family before her. How many had stayed silent because they didn't have her resources, her platform, her ability to fight back. That evening, Ruth Carmichael called. I just wanted to say thank you. For believing me. For not backing down. I should be thanking you, Sophia said quietly. You're the one who was brave enough to come forward. We both were, Ruth replied. And that's what it takes, isn't it? People willing to stand up, even when it's terrifying. Especially when it's terrifying. After they hung up, Sophia stood by her office window, watching the sun set over D.C. She thought about the girl from Southeast who never imagined she'd be here, in this office, running this company, standing up to people who'd spent generations believing they were untouchable. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother: proud of you, baby. Always have been. Always will be. Sophia smiled, feeling the weight of the past month finally start to lift. She'd fought. She'd survived. And she'd won, not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been told their truth didn't matter. Tomorrow, there would be more work. More battles. More moments where she'd have to prove herself all over again. But tonight, Sophia Anderson let herself rest. Because she'd earned it. Before we finish this, I need to say something. Stories like Sophia's don't end well for most people. Most people don't have the resources, the platform, or the support to fight back when powerful families try to destroy them. Most people suffer in silence. Most people lose. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own battles or someone you know who's been silenced, then do something about it. Subscribe. Share this. Make sure stories like this get told. Because the only way the truth wins is if we refuse to let it be buried. 6 months after the arrests, Sophia Anderson stood in the same ballroom where Oliver Davis had poured wine on her head. The Willard Intercontinental had invited her back for their annual Innovation in Energy Summit, and this time, she wasn't a guest. She was the keynote speaker. The room was packed. Many of the same faces who'd witnessed her humiliation were there, but the energy was completely different. Respectful. Even reverent. The people who'd laughed now applauded. The ones who'd filmed now listened. Sophia took the stage in a deep emerald gown, her locks styled in an elegant crown, her presence commanding without effort. She didn't mention the Devises by name. She didn't need to. When I stood on this stage 6 months ago, she began, I made a choice. I chose dignity over profit, self-respect over silence, and truth over comfort. That choice cost me partnerships, money, sleep, and peace of mind. But it also gave me something far more valuable, proof that power without integrity is just cruelty in expensive clothes. The room was silent, hanging on every word. The Davis family is gone now. Their company's been dissolved, their assets seized, their legacy dismantled. Some people think that's justice. I think it's just accountability catching up with people who spent generations avoiding it. She paused. But this story isn't about them. It's about every person who's been humiliated, dismissed, or silenced because someone with more power decided they could. It's about what happens when we stop accepting cruelty as the cost of success. Sophia's voice softened, but the steel remained. Ruth Carmichael, who worked for the Davis family for 18 years, taught me something. She said silence makes you complicit. And she was right. So here's what I want you to take from this. When you witness injustice and do nothing, you're not staying neutral. You're choosing a side. And it's the wrong one. The applause started slowly, then built into a standing ovation. Sophia stood there, accepting it with grace, remembering the woman who'd stood in this same spot soaked in wine, humiliated alone. She wasn't that woman anymore. Not because the wine had changed her, but because she'd refused to let it define her. After the speech, Sophia found Ruth in the crowd. The older woman's eyes were wet with tears. That was beautiful. It was true, Sophia said simply. Later that night, back in her penthouse, Sophia poured herself a glass of red wine, not to forget, but to remember. She thought about Oliver, currently serving time in a juvenile facility with a record that would follow him into adulthood. About Richard and Catherine, awaiting trial, their fortune seized, their name destroyed. About the 9 employees who'd found their voices because Ruth had found hers first. She thought about the $800 million deal she'd walked away from, and the 3 new partnerships worth twice that which had emerged because of her stand. About the companies now implementing anti-discrimination training because they'd watched what happened when they didn't. About the little girls who'd see this story and know that fighting back was possible. Sophia's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm a 16-year-old black girl in Atlanta. My teacher showed us your story today. I just wanted to say thank you for not staying quiet. You made me believe I don't have to either. Sophia read the message 3 times, feeling something shift in her chest. This was why she'd fought. Not for revenge. Not even for justice, really. But for the next generation of girls who deserve to walk into rooms and be respected, not because they'd earned the right to human dignity, but because dignity should never have to be earned in the first place. She texted back, you never had to stay quiet. Your voice mattered before you knew my name, and it'll matter long after. Use it. Sophia set her phone down and looked out over the city she'd conquered not with compromise, but with conviction. The lights stretched endlessly, each one representing someone fighting their own battle, carrying their own weight, deciding whether to speak or stay silent. She'd made her choice. And she'd live with it proudly. Because in the end, the Davis family's money couldn't buy what mattered most: integrity, dignity, and the kind of power that doesn't come from inheritance, but from refusing to be broken. Sophia Anderson had walked into that gala as a successful CEO. She'd walked out as something far more dangerous. A woman who couldn't be bought, silenced, or destroyed. And that terrified people with power far more than any canceled deal ever could. This isn't just Sophia's story. It's the story of everyone who's ever been underestimated, disrespected, or told they should be grateful for crumbs when they built the whole table. If you stayed until the end, thank you. Stories like this matter. Truth matters. And the only way it keeps mattering is if people like you make sure it's heard. Subscribe. Share this. And the next time you see someone being treated like they don't matter, say something. Because silence is a choice. And we all have to live with the choices we make.